And after prison, you get out.
Jail.
Jail.
In prison. Yeah,
is there a difference?
Yes. I'm glad
sorry.
you don't know that. You
sorry.
shouldn't know those type of things.
Today's episode features an interview with Charlamagne Tha God. And if you're thinking, man, Kelsey's really trying to up the cool factor with these interviews, you are absolutely right. Because he is a very cool, influential, often controversial TV and radio personality, best known as a co-host for New York City's Power 105.1 FM's The Breakfast Club morning show. He also appears on multiple television shows and co-hosts the Best of iTunes podcast, Brilliant Idiots. He says exactly what he thinks about anyone and everyone without a filter, which has created some very entertaining radio segments. But what interests me about him is that anyone can say something controversial and give themselves a cool name like he did and have a 15 minutes of fame type effect. But he's been doing this for over 15 years. So I think you'll enjoy my conversation with him about building a powerful personal brand. But I do want to tell you, even though this time we finally got the audio and video on point, the university where we shot this had a backdrop set up and it was taped up, and I knew in my gut it was going to fall down. I even asked if we could change venues and they said we didn't have time, and I should have pushed the issue because sure enough, the backdrop falls down during the middle of our interview. It actually ends up being hilarious, so enjoy that funny moment. But it's a lesson for me to stand my ground and listen to my gut next time. Enjoy this interview with Charlamagne Tha God. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Pursuit. I am Kelsey Humphreys here with the Charlamagne Tha God, which is so cool. You're obviously on your book tour, and so I heard he was going to be in Dallas. You guys always like, we'll drive down to Dallas, we'll be there. So thanks so much for letting us talk with you today.
Thank you for having me, Kelsey. What's happening?
Well, I just love your story, particularly, I mean, there's lots we can talk about, so I'm kind of going to go through and ask you for advice for people along the way in your story. But I want you guys to know this guy has built an amazing personal brand, radio personality, media personality. Give your quick intro that you gave on Gary Vee's show, like if for people that don't know you.
Radio personality, TV personality, podcaster, executive producer, professional slang spitter, heavy hitter, shit talker. Yeah. And so what I love is basically, for anybody who doesn't know, back in the day, I mean, you were arrested, you had a lot of trouble in your teens, and I love that your dad made you dig your own grave. Is that right? Absolutely. He told me that he made me dig a hole that was supposed to be 6 feet wide, 6 feet deep. Of course, I didn't get that far, but he said, this is what you're either going to be doing for the rest of your life, digging ditches, or you're going to be buried in one of these. So crazy. Yeah. And so one of the things you've said is to change your life, you had to change your lifestyle. Absolutely. So then after prison, you get out. Jail. Jail. In prison. Yeah, is there a difference? Yes. I'm glad sorry. You don't know that. You shouldn't know those type of things, but it's the county jail and then it's the prison. Okay. Yeah. So after some jail time. Yes. Then what was your mentality? Because a lot of people, you know, after a setback like that, it's just hard for them to bounce back and get back into the hustle and changing their life. So how did you get over that? The first time I started working at a warehouse called Industrial Acoustics Company, which was a big deal to me because they always tell you once you go to jail and you got a record, you can't even get a good job. So I worked there, but only worked there for a couple months. I never forget these people's names. Her name was Gail Cobb. She was a supervisor. Told me the same thing that I've been hearing my whole life. You don't fit in here. We're moving in another direction. So once I heard that, I was like, damn. So that's when I kind of just like got caught up in the street because the money was easy. You know, my homeboys were selling crack. I saw the money that they were making. So I started hustling too. So I kind of like fell, even though I was supposed to be taking a step forward, I did take a step forward at the warehouse. I took 2 steps back by getting in the street and actually starting to deal with drugs at this moment. But it was like probably after the second time I got arrested, which was for drugs, that's when I was like, yo, I can't live like this. Because my father was telling me over and over, you're gonna end up in jail, dead or broke sitting under a tree. So when I actually started going to jail and see people around me dying and seeing cousins that I used to look up to actually sitting under a tree broke, I was like, yo, my pops is right. Guys, this is real, this is happening. Okay. This is great. Yeah. You gotta keep it going. Don't edit this. This is the best part of everything. I'm telling you.
People understand. This is real. This is happening.
Real. This is how it goes down. But yeah, my pops, when I started realizing the things my pops was saying.
Wait, you don't have to stand.
No, you're going to stand there for 25 minutes?
No, I'm not going to do that.
You're really,
Thank you so much.
You're dedicated to them.
You can just drop it and walk out. Get a little cameo.
You must got warrants. You don't want to be seen?
Thank you so much, though, for helping.
Well, yeah, once I realized the things my pops were saying were actually coming true, that's when I was like, I got to make some changes. And that's what I started doing. I just started working mad odd jobs. Like I worked at a clothing store in the mall called Demo. I did telemarketing. What else was I doing? I worked at a flower garden. I worked at Taco Bell. I just did what I just wanted to create positive energy in my life. So I just started working mad odd jobs, and that's how I stumbled across the radio business.
So before we go to radio, anyone who's watching that maybe did jail time, really had some setbacks, some hardships, what's your number one piece of advice for them to get back on the right side of their life?
Don't listen to the poison. Like, I talk about it in my book. One of my principles is, you're going to be presented with 3 Ps in life. Your passion, procrastination, or poison. And a lot of times, you got that jail record. And people always told me, like, oh, you'll never be able to get a job. You got this on your record, blah, blah, blah. I just couldn't embrace that. Like, I actually would go out, fill out the application. When I get to the part that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? I was like, yes. What was it? Write down what it was. And I didn't get calls back from everybody, but I did get calls back. So I ended up with jobs. They weren't like, they weren't careers at all, but I still had a job at that time. So I would tell people, just simply don't listen to that poison. When people telling you that, this can't happen and that won't happen. Of course it's difficult, of course it's hard. Of course some people see that and be like, oh no, I don't want this guy working here. But I think a lot of people do tend to overlook that. Especially if they can see you actually trying to make a positive change and if you present yourself in a good manner when you're sitting down talking to these people. So I just think that, Yeah, just don't take no for an answer, basically.
Awesome, I love that. So then you do end up as an intern at a radio station, which is life-changing for you. Was there a moment where something clicked and you were like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I got the internship because I met this guy named Willie Will. He was a radio personality in Charleston, South Carolina at the time. And I just asked him, how did he get into radio? And that's one thing I always like to do is just ask questions. That's what I encourage people to do. If you see somebody doing something that's intriguing to you, just ask them simply how they got there. So he told me, he was like, I went down there and got an internship. So I followed his blueprint, went down there and got an internship. And I wasn't in school. Mind you, this was 1998 in Charleston, South Carolina, so circumstances were different for interns. But I was working in the promotions department, and I loved that because I just loved being around it. It was just something positive, like, being around the radio personalities, being at the different concerts and events. It was just like the most positive thing I had done in my life up to that point. And then a guy named Ron White asked me to be on the radio. He was like, yo, you ever thought about being on air? And I was like, sure. And so he put me on air, and then, as I just started to grow, I remember one day I was just sitting there doing overnights. Overnight is the midnight to 5 a.m. shift. And, when I get into something, I start researching it. So I was just researching different radio personalities, and I'm like, hold up, you can really have a career doing this? Like, you can, like, legit make money and legit just, like, it's a career. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. Like, I love this. I love this game. I love the feeling of just being on the microphone, talking to people, communicating to people. So, yeah, it was at that moment. It was a midnight to 5 a.m. shift that made me be like, this is what I want to do.
When did you develop, what could be called like brash, no holes barred style where you just tell it like it is? Was it always that way? Did you start to push the envelope more and more?
No, it's always been that way. I talk about it in my book. The best thing about me is that I didn't know how to do radio. Like, I didn't have any formal radio training. I didn't go to school. Like, nobody taught me. So the only thing I would do when I would go on the air is just be myself. Like, I would just talk. Because the first time they started putting me on Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Charleston, South Carolina. That didn't last long because I was just scaring the church folk. Right. And then they moved me to Saturday night, 7 to midnight, which was more my steez because we had the mix show going, and it was just like I just really honestly didn't know how to do anything but just talk. So I would just take a lot of phone calls and talk to the listeners, and I would just be giving my opinion about the music. And at the time I was drinking and smoking weed, so I'd be stumbling in the studio, just coming really fresh, literally fresh off the block in Mouse Corner, hanging with my dudes out there and going on the air and just talking. So it was just like I always was that. Like that's just who I am. That's who my friends are. That's who my family is. Like that's just how we are. We just talk to each other. Like the quickest way between 2 points is a straight line. I was just talking. It wasn't even a style. Like it's funny when people say that now. You know, it's something you think about, but it's like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Do you think about it now?
Yeah, because people are always putting it in my head. But see, what I refuse to do is become a caricature of myself.
I heard you say that. What does that mean?
That means that you start doing everything you think people want you to do, and you're not really being. It's really being closed-minded because you're not being open-minded. You're not being receptive to growth, and you're not being receptive to your real emotions and your real feelings. Like for me, that's what I like. I think that's what captures those moments when you really say what you feel in that moment, when that real emotion hits. Like it could be something like, say the day Aaron Hernandez killed himself. If you was like caught in a caricature and you were a shock jock, you would just look to say the most shocking thing possible. Mm-hmm. Me, I'm just always caught in the real moment.
Yeah.
My real moment is, and this is how I really felt. I know. I used to work with his cousin. His cousin used to be, I used to work with him, and he's a good friend of us. I'm like, do we even send him condolences for this? Like, honestly, that's how I felt. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it became a thing on the air this morning, but I'm like, I wasn't trying to, I wasn't making that up. I really know his family. I used to tease the guy when Aaron first got locked up. So it's like, do we send him condolences? I mean, Aaron was a gang-banging murderer, like.
Yeah, how do you handle that?
Yeah, how do you handle it? Like, I don't know. Do I say, hey, sorry for your loss?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
The world's sad?
Yeah, but that's how I really felt. Yeah. And I don't mind having that experience with the listeners. Like, I don't mind that confusion. I don't mind saying.
Which is vulnerability.
I don't mind saying, hey, and even asking them and having them call up,
So you catch the eye of Wendy Williams. I know you said this before, so I'm going to catch the audience up. Mm-hmm. She catches wind of him, reaches out to you, and you go from like 80-something market to #1 market in the world, New York. And he does this with no pay. And here's the thing. A lot of people are like, okay, I'll do something for no pay for a month or 3 months. I feel like in today's like, okay, I'm going to put in the work for like a quarter. But you did this with no pay for
a year, like a year and a half.
A year and a half,
yeah. A little over a year.
Now, obviously now you wouldn't do something like that, but for someone who's trying to hustle to make it, how can they evaluate, okay, I should go do this for free for the experience? How do they know, like, when are they starting to be taken advantage of? How did you gauge that? Coming up, don't miss his #1 piece of advice for success. But first, I want to tell you about something really cool, especially if you're a freelancer, if you have a service-based business, maybe you're trying to grow a side hustle, and you got a lot of invoices going out and hopefully a lot of money coming in, right? If you're having trouble keeping all of that organized, maybe not doing the best job keeping track of your time and keeping track of all the taxes information, you've got to check out the FreshBooks Cloud Accounting app, okay? It is going to make things so much easier for you. You can go right now, it takes 30 seconds to set it up, and immediately start sending invoices with your logo on it, with your colors, they're professional looking, no more clunky Word documents, okay? Plus, you can go in and use the time tracker app and immediately start a task and associate that time to a specific client. And then you don't have to have that awkward conversation when your clients forget to pay you, because the app has automatic email follow-up that will remind people that their invoice is past due. You can immediately log in and look at your dashboard and know what money's coming in, what money's going out. You can easily sync your expenses. If you use a particular credit card for your business account, you can just import that in and it will automatically categorize your expenses for you. You guys are going to love this, and FreshBooks is offering my viewers a free 30-day trial. So go to freshbooks.com/pursuit and make sure when it pops up and says, how did you hear about us, that you put in the pursuit, and you'll get a free 30-day trial and you can try it out for yourself. You have a lot of invoices, you have a lot of variables, you have a lot of things going on in your business because you're growing and you're hustling, which is awesome, but you're not so awesome with the organization. You have got to try it out. Again, that's freshbooks.com/pursuit. I also wanted to remind you guys about the 3 best ways to support this free show on the internet, okay? And #1 is you can share this video. Share it with a hustler you know will like it. Share it with your social media followers. That would be awesome. Number 2, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That always helps. And number 3, most important, you can sign up for our monthly email list. And when you do, you're going to get a free copy of this month's Pursuit magazine, which comes out every month. It's totally free, and it takes you behind the scenes of every single interview. It answers questions like, how did you get that interview? What were they like in person? All that kind of fun stuff. Plus, we have topical articles for each month, like goal setting and productivity and marketing and branding. So don't miss out. Again, it's totally free. It's only once a month. This is at thepursuit.tv/magazine. Now, let's get back into the show. For someone who's trying to hustle to make it, how can they evaluate, okay, I should go do this for free for the experience? How do they know, like, when are they starting to be taken advantage of? How did you gauge that?
Well, that's how you know if something is your passion or not. Like I always tell people, how do you figure out something is your passion? It's that thing that you go to sleep about at night and it's on your mind. You wake up and it's still on your mind. It's like a burning desire inside of you. You just can't escape it. And you would do it for free simply because you love it.
Yeah.
So that's what radio was for me. So, you know, it actually just came at such a great time because I had just got demoted from 6 days a week to 1 day a week because of a stand I took, which I talk about in my book, a stand I took in Columbia, South Carolina. And when these husbands said, yo, we can give you a place to stay, but we can't pay you, I didn't think twice about it. Because I just knew, my mind immediately was like, yo, if I go on this show with Wendy Williams and do what I'm supposed to do as her co-host, I can write my own ticket.
Yeah.
Like literally, I can write my own ticket. Sky's the limit from there. You know, you don't get a chance to break into the #1 market, New York City, coming from market number 80, whatever in Columbia was. So I just think it's all about your passion. Like if it's your passion, you will pursue it. And even in the pursuit of your dreams, yes, you still have to deal with your reality. But I break down this thing in my book where I talk about, it's 168 hours in a week. So even if you're going to school for 30 hours and you got a job for 40 hours, you still got like 80, 90 plus hours to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you can't find time to pursue your dream and deal with your reality in this 168 hour week, then you ain't hustling right.
Yeah. So then from there, can you kind of explain, because my initial question is like, well, how did you live? I mean, you didn't have to pay for your lodging, but you had to pay for food. I mean, you had some expenses. Yeah. So obviously some other opportunities came out. You moved into TV, you were doing a bunch of other stuff.
Well, I mean, I was on her television show, but I wasn't getting paid for that. I would write sometimes for her, like you know, like it was like Hip Hop Weekly, and she'd pay me for that. She told me a little under the table money for that. But then I'd go down to South Carolina and throw parties and still host parties. You know, that's why. I mean, first of all, I'm never turning my back on my state because that's my state. But home is very important to me for reasons like that, because home is gonna always hold you down. So when I get my money for a plane ticket, like my now wife had a job, she give me money for a plane ticket, I fly down, host some parties, get a little cash in my pocket, come right back up to New York on Monday morning. So it was just, you figure things out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know how they say you make time for things you want to make time for, and you figure things out when you want to get something done. I just figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your wife, because you guys have been together for a really long time.
Yeah.
Right? And so she's kind of seen this whole evolution.
Everything. First time I ever filled out a job application for an internship at a radio station, Z93 Jams, she drove me down there to fill out the application.
Has fame been hard for you guys? Your fame, I guess?
Nah.
No?
I mean, I like to keep my family private, you know what I'm saying? I like to keep them out of the eyes of people and the spotlights of the camera, you know what I mean? I mean, if you catch us in traffic, cool, but I'm not like we posing for pictures and all of that. But no, it hasn't. And I mean, because we grounded people.
Yeah.
You know, we from the same hometown. You know, family is real close to us. We got the same circle we've always had. I mean, of course, I believe in, you know, new people. So I don't believe in that whole no new friends philosophy. So of course we gain new friends and new acquaintances, but most of my new friends are her friends as well. So, and a lot of times if she don't like somebody's energy, I'm leery of that too. So,
right.
But nah, it hasn't been hard at all.
Has there been anything really unexpected about this journey that, I mean, now you're, you know, massively successful, Breakfast Club, super famous.
I think the most unexpected thing, or the thing I think about the most, is that I could be the same exact person I was 10 years ago, and people just start to notice now. You know what I'm saying? It's
like I've always been this awesome? Is that what you're saying?
I just things I've always cared about, causes I've always championed, you know what I mean? Like I've always just been big on my people. I've been big on just the black community, you know, and I've always tried to do things to empower and enlighten us. Like I interviewed Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in 2005. I was doing youth ministry at Muhammad Mosque number 38. I was doing nonprofit stuff. Me and my wife was doing nonprofit stuff. We had a nonprofit called Third Eye Awareness. I still have the nonprofit right now. And we used to do these events called the No Matrix Movement. We would show kids that there was other career options other than rap and athletics. Like I've always done this kind of stuff, but it's just like somebody made a comment to me this morning, like, oh, Charlamagne just trying to capitalize on the Black Lives Matter era. And I'm like, bro, where you been? You know what I'm saying? We've been I've had Farrakhan on the Breakfast Club, Dick Gregory, Michael Eric Dyson a few times, you know what I'm saying? Tariq Nasheed, Dr. Umar Johnson, Boyce Watkins. Like I'm always bringing voices that, Sister Soldier. So I'm always bringing voices that try to lift us up. So I'm like, where you been? Like, it's just weird. It's just, that's the only thing. Like, I'm like, people start paying attention to things now. And that's what I always say. It's like, no, you just started noticing.
Yeah.
It's not that I just started doing this. You just started noticing.
Right.
You started paying attention.
I love the book. You talk about, opportunities come to those that create them. And I wanted to know, in your amazing radio career, what have been the best ways that you've created opportunities for yourself? Which is also serving as advice for people who want to come up in the industry.
Absolutely, positively networking. Like my grandmother told me, manners will take you where money won't. I'm a stern believer in that. Like I try to show love to everybody I come across. You know what I mean? Shake everybody's hand.
He literally did that, by the way. Shook every hand when he walked in.
Yeah, I just think that's respectful. You know what I mean? That's just respectful as a human being. But I mean, I just think that's something you should do. Like that's how you leave a mark on people. Like every opportunity I've ever gotten is because of somebody I've met, a new connection I've made, Plus, I mean, of course, when you're putting in the work yourself, people want to meet with you. But early on, when you don't know anybody and nobody knows who you are and you're trying to just, get a name out there, it's just like, networking, showing love, meeting people, shaking hands. What's up? How are you? What do you do? Being annoying. You got to have a DJ Khaled level of annoyance, you know what I'm saying, when you're on the come up. You know what I mean? Even when you're not on the come up, like even when you think you're where you want to be.
Tell everyone.
I have no problem asking somebody what they do, what they're into, how did they get there, how can I be involved, if it's something I want to be involved in. So networking is absolutely the key. I
think a lot of people watching probably would relate to wanting to start a podcast. And I know you said the goal for you has always been to make great radio. And I wondered, what's your advice for people now who want to create a great podcast? Do you have some insights for them?
Yeah, I mean, I have a podcast called The Brilliant Idiots. Me and my man Andrew Schultz, we've been doing it for a couple years. It wasn't even something that I was looking to do. My man Chris Moreau was like, yo, you need to do a podcast. And I was being arrogant. I was like, why? I'm on the radio. But then like I said, I'm too dumb to be closed-minded, so I never want to be closed-minded to things. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I do enjoy podcasts. Like I enjoy to read at the time, because this was a couple years ago. But I enjoy several of them now. But at the time, it was to read, and it was Combat Jack. Then I started listening to the Champs, Neil Brennan, and Moshe Kasher, and I was like, okay, why not? And plus, Andrew's my guy. And I just felt like Andrew wanted to have more of a voice outside of stand-up. So it was just something we started doing. And that's why I say opportunity comes to those who create it, because you live in the best era to create your own opportunities now. Like if you want to be a broadcaster, you can start a podcast. If you want to be a VJ, you can set up a camera and talk and post it on YouTube. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can create T-shirts and sell them on social media. Like if you want to be a motivational speaker, you can post your motivational quotes on Instagram and start doing videos. Like you can literally create all your own opportunities. I didn't have all those tools growing up. So my advice for anybody who wants to start a podcast, just do it. If you have compelling content and you're actually saying something that people want to hear, it'll catch on. It absolutely positively will.
Well, they're saying we have to wrap up, so thank you so much, guys. Go get his book. I'm going to have him sign this, and we're going to give this one away. So you can win an autographed copy by sharing this interview, and look for the article on entrepreneur.com. Thank you so much. I'm Kelsey Humphreys here with Charlamagne Tha God, and this has been The Pursuit. Here are my top few keys to success for the rest of us when it comes to creating a standout personal brand. Number 1, pay your dues. You guys, many of the successful people I talk to start at the bottom of their industry, and so did he. He started as an intern and he worked his way up. And then when he got noticed by Wendy Williams, he went and worked for her without pay for a year and a half. He explained that's how you know if you're really passionate about something. And I love what he said about the fact that we all have 168 hours in a week, so we should be able to fit in our passions. Number 2, be yourself. Though he's outspoken and unfiltered, Charlamagne makes sure that he never becomes, quote, a caricature of himself, which means that he's not just dogging on people for the fun of it, and he doesn't put on a persona. He said that no one taught him how to do radio. What he does on air is who he is. He's just that way. His family's that way. He's always been open and honest. And he warned people not to start doing what they thought that the audience wanted. That's not sustainable long term. So make sure as you're building a personal brand, you build it around your authentic self. Number 3, take risks. It's worth noting that his bold style has gotten him fired a few times, but he says that he's for the people and not for the industry, meaning he doesn't pander to celebrities to get on their good side or have them on the show. This is a risk because that could mean some celebrities don't want to come on their show and do interviews, but the risk continues to pay off because the people love him, and as the listenership grows, the more celebrities want to be on their show. Now, with his brand new book, Black Privilege, he's taking a bit of a risk again with such a provocative title. But he says honesty is a foundation that he can stand on, so even if he gets in trouble for something that he said, he can stand behind it. Number 4, stay hungry. Charlamagne decided back in his intern days that he wanted to be a star jock. He wanted to play at the top of his game. So he put in the hustle and he works to stay relevant and innovative. For example, he started recording his radio shows on video back when YouTube was still relatively new. And now part of his fame is due to their viral videos from the Breakfast Club conversations. He was also an early adopter on social media and now has over 1.8 million followers on Twitter alone. If you want to go far, prove yourself and make meaningful connections, he says. He said you have to tell people what you want, tell people what you're trying to do. He said you, quote, have to have a DJ Khaled level of annoyance, which, you guys, is showing vulnerability, which brings me to my next point, to stay grounded. You can't find an interview with him where he doesn't talk about the dirt road town, Moncks Corner, where he came from. He's big on supporting his home state. He goes back to his high school for charity events. This is a man who's not going to forget where he comes from. He's also big on listening and observing, and that's another critical common trait of the successful people I interview here on the show. He's also well-read. He's deeply spiritual. He explained that in order to have these real moments that he keeps having on radio, he has to stay present, open, and receptive. He's willing to show the audience when he doesn't know something, when he's confused. He said he doesn't mind letting the audience in on that. So don't be afraid to get vulnerable. And if you've fallen on hard times like Charlamagne did in his early years, serving some jail time and then working whatever odd jobs he could, stay grounded and don't let the negativity in. Remember his advice. Don't listen to the poison. Just keep going because people will overlook your mistakes if they can tell you're actually trying to make a positive change in your life.